Hello. Today's lesson is about getting familiar with the graph pi. From this section, we can select it. If we click on it and then go to the main page of the XP Builder software and click there, it will appear for us. And we can also adjust its dimensions here. We can make it bigger here. Basically, we have a pie chart here that can be divided in different ways. And we'll get to know its details more as we go on. So, when we click on it, a window will open for us. The first tab is Basic. Here, we need to enter an address. In this section, if I click here, this window will open for us. In this section, we can select our controller. Our controller is XC-Link. That means we're going to connect this HMI to an LS HMI compact PLC. So in this section, we can enter an address. Looking closely at this comprehensive data table that it provides us with right here, we can choose one of these specific options. I'll go ahead and select MW, and then we can just pick the MW0 entry right here. All right, moving right along. The next tab we need to look at is all about the display settings. This colorful pie chart right here features a specific channel section where we can easily set up several different modes for it depending on our needs. If I configure this specific setting to a value of 1, it will automatically generate and display a complete full circle here for us. Now, depending entirely on the specific numerical value we put in MW0, which ranges between 0 and 100, this circular graphic can actually dynamically change its appearance. It features a clean white background color and a vibrant blue foreground color. All of these specific settings can be adjusted and modified based on the MW0 memory. The system automatically reads the data right here and can then generate and draw that detailed visual chart for us. This is for when we select the value 1 here. Now, let's test this together. As I mentioned, we can also change its color here. I'll confirm this. Okay, so in order for us to test this together, I need a numeric input, so I can manually enter the value of MW0 here. But in practice, when you connect this HMI to the PLC, the memory whose chart we're going to plot, it actually reads that memory value from the PLC. So here, for our test, I'll select a numeric input. I'll go ahead and position this component right over here, and then I'll carefully input its specific network address into this field here. Well, if you take a look right here, you will notice the specific period that is located directly below this section, which serves as a very important marker for the timeline we are currently discussing in this presentation. I'll also align it directly in the center and adjust the font size specifically to 20 points. So the numbers we enter here will be displayed much larger and significantly bolder for us to see. Now, to verify that everything is working correctly together, we'll enter the software simulation environment to see the results. All right, now here I enter a number. You see, when it's 0, our circle is actually white. Now, based on the number I enter, between 0 and 100, it starts drawing. For example, if I enter the number 10 here, it shows us 10%. If I enter 50, it becomes half a circle. And if I enter 90, for example, as you can clearly see right here, it has gradually and steadily filled up 90% of the entire circle for us. And finally, if I go ahead and enter a value of 100, you will see that it has turned the whole thing completely blue. So this specific setup is for the case where our channel number right here is set to exactly 1. Now, if we decide to set the channel count to 2, we can then assign 2 separate MWs for it, 1 megawatt for the first half of the circle and another MW for the other remaining half. And we can even change their individual colors to distinguish them. If I set this value to 0, it relates specifically to this first part. And now we can, for example, change its color. Let's go ahead and make it red. And if we set this value to 1, it relates directly to the second color. And we can, for example, choose a nice blue for it. So, as a result, our circle is divided into two equal 50% sections. Now here, we only had MW0 initially, but it works in a sequential order, meaning it automatically assigns MW1 for the second 50% portion. So there is really no need for us to manually enter MW1 here. Based on the specific number of channels we select here in this menu, it automatically adds to MW0. For example, here we selected 2 channels, so we definitely need to consider both the MW0 and MW1 memories. If, for example, we had selected 3 channels here in this section, we would need to account for even more. But if we want to consider this paragraph carefully, we need to take into account the MW memories for the maximum values. To test this out properly, I will copy this and paste it right here, click on it, and as I explained to you before, we need to enter MW1 here. And in practice, we actually read MW0 and MW1 from the PLC memory, but since we want to test it here, I'll enter them manually. Now, we can assign values here. Let's say I'll give the first one a value. I'll go ahead and set the second value specifically to 70. Okay, now let's take a moment to see exactly how it draws the chart for us based on that input. This is a very important point to understand. The system adds these two values together. 30 plus 70 equals exactly 100. So as a result, it considers the first value as 30% and the second one as 70% of the total. Now, for another example, if I set the first one to 50 and the second one to 50, let's see what happens. With two 50%, 50 plus 50 makes 100. So this one becomes 1/2, and the other one also becomes 1/2 of the circle. So, based on the specific numbers we enter here, it adds the two together and then displays the relative percentage of each one here on the screen. Now, to make our work much easier and to be able to see the actual percentages here, if we click on this display option, specifically on this Use Data Display section, if I check this box right here, it writes the percentages for us right on the chart itself. Now, let's test this process together one more time to be sure. I'll activate the simulation again. For example, I'll set this one to 60, the first one, and the second one to 40. Let's see. It considered 60% and 40% for us automatically. Now, for another example, if I set the first one to 80 and the second one to 20, this one becomes 80% and that one becomes 20%, which it now displays for us clearly. Okay, the third mode is when we select, for example, channel 3, which then divides the chart into 3 equal parts. As we said before, here we need one more MW, meaning we need 3 distinct memory locations, MW0, MW1, and MW2. And I'll repeat this important point. In the device section, we enter the starting address. We enter MW0, and the system automatically considers the rest of the addresses in order. So, when the first one is set to MW0, it automatically takes MW1 and MW2 for the other channels. Now, I'll click here, and if I click on this window, we can also manually enter its address here as well. We need to enter it here. So, we should enter the number 2 here, meaning we need to enter MW2 here. So, this one is MW0, this one is MW1, and this one is MW2. Now, let's go into the simulation environment of the software and test this together. For example, I'll set the first one to 20, the second one to 30, and the third one to 50. So the first one is 20%, the second one is 30%, and the third one is 50%, which is correct. Now, if we want, we can also change the color of the third one. That is, if I click here on the third part, if I select this circle, we can change its color to whatever we like. All right, and in the same way, we can select up to 16. We can even consider this as being divided into up to 16 parts. For example, for a situation where it's divided into 10 parts. So based on this channel here, we can choose any number between 1 and 16. We can select any number we have in mind here. All right, there's another section here called Scale. If we activate this, it'll scale the circle for us. For example, I set this to the mode. Let's say I set it to 6. Now, in this section, we can also change the color of the scale. For now, we'll just select this default white color here. So here we can see that it actually divided our circle into 6 equal parts, which now we can, for each one of these, using this text here, with the help of this text, we can assign a number to each of these so that our work can be more precise. That's its use. This pie chart is for situations where, for example, in industry, we want to combine several materials together and have the percentage of each one. We can, for instance, use this for that purpose. Thank you very much for your attention.